your goal is not enough.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Geek-A-Tech. First of all, I would like to thank you to all my viewers and subscribers for their love and their support. So, in the Core Java interview question series, today I am bringing a new topic which is final keyword in Java. Okay, previously we discussed about the main method, we discussed about the wrapper classes, we discussed about the couple of programming scenarios where we saw that how we can compare two strings that both strings are anagram or not. We also saw that how we can arrange in descending order an array. Okay, so today we are going to talk about the final keyword in Java. So the different scenarios which mostly asked in interviews also. Okay, so let's start with the first one, the first scenario. So what is the main difference between global variable and a local variable when we declare them as a final? Okay, not the static, non-static part. Okay, we are not going to discuss about their scope. So exactly related to the final. Okay, so what is the main difference? So let's see, let me show you what is the main difference. Let's first create a global variable. Okay, final static int year 1993. Okay, why I created this static? Because I'm going to use this variable inside the static main method to print it. Otherwise, if I don't make it a static, then the non-static variables cannot be accessible by static method. Okay, so here I'm going to create a local variable. Okay, so by looking at the first glance, there is no difference. Let's see what is the difference. Here you can see that there is no uh, default value for a final variable. Okay, we need to assign it whenever we are going to declare it. Okay, whenever we are going to declare a final variable as a global variable, then initialization is must. If we are not doing that, then we will get a compile time error. There will be no runtime error. Okay, compiler will force us to initialize the global level uh, final variable. Okay, so for that we need to give a value. Where in case of local variable, okay, it's a compiler will not force us to initialize it. Okay, but when we are going to use that particular variable, okay, when we are going to print that variable or we are going to use in some calculations, that before using that the initialization is must. Okay, so let's see what will be the output for this if I'm not going to initialize the local variable. Okay, here you can see that compiler is giving me error. So even uh, a local variable is there which marks as final. Okay, so we need to initialize it if we are going to use it. Okay, at the time of declaration the compiler will not force us. Okay, we can declare it and we can initialize it at any point of time in our program, but in case of global variable we should initialize it at the time of declaration. Okay, so let's make a change. Now let's print the values. Okay, so let's see what will be the output. Yeah, this is 9 and 1993. They are the two values. Okay, both the values are printed now. So what we saw is that first first point we saw global variable should be initialized at the time of declaration. Okay, second thing, local variable can only be declared, okay, no need to initialize a timer declaration. Okay. Third thing we saw, even local variable need to initialize before using it. Okay. So these three things we identified at the level of global and local for a final value. Now let's talk about the another program. So can we mark a constructor as final? So it's a very interesting question. Many of the times people are said, yeah, we cannot make it as a final. But the question is, what kind of error we will receive? Do we get a do we get a runtime error, or do we get a compile time error, or we get an exception? Okay, so sometimes for making question more tricky, a very simple question make more tricky. Sometimes interview will give you three options. Okay, so what will happen? So let's see what will be the result. Final, final in Java 2. Okay, first constructor have the same name as the class name. Here you can see that. Final modifier is not allowed. Okay, so compiler will force us to remove the final keyword from the constructor. Okay, we cannot make a constructor final. We will always receive a compile time error. It's a very simple answer for that. Okay, now let's move to another question. Can we assign a null value to a final array list? Okay, let's do the list. Let me make it as array list. Okay, if I create a array list as final, so first question is that can I make a array list final? That would be a question asked in interview also. So yes, we can create an array list as final. Can I assign a null value? Okay, can I assign a to complete list? Okay, to complete an array list, can I assign it? So let's see what will be the output. Can we assign it or not? If we can assign, then how we can assign? If we are not able to assign it, then what kind of error we will get? Do we get a runtime error? Do we get an exception? Do we get a compile time error? What will happen? Okay, so let's see. Okay, yes, goes to new array list. Okay, let's make it as final. So, okay, let's add some values. Okay, so here I created an array list with the three variables. Okay, now let's see, can I assign this array list a null value? So you can that no, we cannot assign a new value to an array list. Okay, we can because array list is final. We already declare an array list as final, means this array list will contain only this value. We cannot modify it. We cannot assign a new object to it. We cannot assign a null value to it. Okay, so if I am having an array list which I make it as final, then I cannot reassign a new value to the array list. Okay, so answer will be a compile time error. Let's go towards the another question. Can we make an abstract method as final? It's very interesting and very confusing question also. Can I make it as final? Let's see what will be the output. Okay, final abstract integer age equals to 90. Okay, so it's a very it's an invalid combination. The abstract method or an abstract variable can never be marked as final. Okay, let's see a method also. Okay, void test. Okay, let me make it as abstract. Okay, so we will get the same error. Okay, the illegal combination. So whenever we are going to create a method or a variable as final, we cannot make them as abstract. Okay, abstraction and final will be the opposite. Okay, if we want to use a method or a variable at this point of time in another in another class, okay, then we cannot mark it as final. Okay, it should not be a final. So we will receive a compile time error always. Okay, okay. Can I make a class final? Yes, I can make a class final. And what will happen if I try to extend that class? Let's see. Here I try to extend inherit the final in Java 3 class, which make this final. So here we will get a compile time error. We cannot inherit, okay, because it's make this final. So many times, why I try to demonstrate you these questions as in practical, because many of the answers we already know that okay, we cannot extend a class which is make it as final. We cannot create a constructor final. But the tricky question in interviews many times ask what kind of error we will get. Do we get a compile time error? Do we get a runtime error? Do we get an exception? Okay, so that's why I try to demonstrate you these questions. Okay, so let's summarize it. First question which we saw is that what is the difference between a global variable and a local variable? Then when we make them as final, so the difference is global variables must be initialized at the time of declaration, where local variables we can only declare. It's not required to be initialized at the time of declaration. But when we are going to use a local variable, then before using it, it should be assigned a value. In my next program we saw, can we create a constructor final? No, we cannot make a constructor final. Okay, we will receive a compile time error, so Java will not allow us. In the next program we saw, can we assign a null value to a final array list? Okay, if we create an array list as final, can we reassign a new value to it? So no, we will get a compile time error for that also. That the next question we saw about, can we make a abstract method or a variable as final? No, we cannot make it because it will contradict to each other. Okay, so we cannot do it. And the last one we saw, can I make a class final? Okay, and if I try to use yes, we can make a class as final. If I try to extend that class, then what will be happen? Then what will happen? Then we will give a compile time error for that. Okay, so this is all about the final keyword in Java. So if you want to discuss about more in core Java, if you want more questions related to any topic, please mention in comment box, and do like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to press notification bell. Thank you.